Hi there, my name is Sam and I'm the Advising Fellow for the Master's Program in Data Analysis and Visualization. I've got here 3 pieces of advice for your capstone or thesis. The first piece of advice is to plan ahead. This has got to be the most important piece of advice I could offer you students after having seen so many projects in the recent years. It's very easy for a project of any kind to fall victim to what we call scope creep. Something that you originally thought would have sensible boundaries inevitably expands in something much bigger and much more unmanageable than you originally thought it would be. So, what does this mean? It means before you register for the semester in which you do your capstone, spend time in the previous semester planning your project, thinking about, is it feasible? Is it manageable? Is it doable given the time constraints I have? Some of you have day jobs, some of you have a lot of coursework to do, others have obligations of other kinds. So can you do the work that you need? And could you feasibly within a 15-week semester, either in the fall or the spring, finish the project within the time that you're given? You can work on this project over the summer, but remember, you are only registered for a capstone for 1 semester. It's a 3-credit course, and that may be the only time that you can get advice from your advisor on this particular project. A great piece of advice within this I can give you is try to make a prototype or a very, very basic model of what you'd like to do before you start your capstone semester. As a basic feasibility study, this is really useful because it can help you to be clear about what's actually going to work and what might not. And then you can suss out what's going to be the major obstacles once you get started during the semester, and you can bring those problems to your advisor having already started on the project. That will be a great way to go and a great way to help the project be delivered in a time frame that will actually work for you in time for graduation. You should probably also build in a couple of weeks into your timetable to allow for work that you didn't know needed to be done in your project. Problems and issues that can be very time-consuming often come up in the process, and if you build in extra time to this plan of yours, you won't be caught out and you can still make the necessary deadlines that you have set for yourself. The second piece of advice I would give you is to use available data. It's very easy to start a project and think that the data will arrive later. The problem with this is that the data that you want may not be available, it may be very expensive, or it may simply be proprietary and you will not be allowed to access either all of what's necessary or even any of what's necessary. Many companies hoard their data and they won't let you access it unless you have a very good reason or a lot of money to pay for it. Try to use open source data and try to use sources of data that will help you make your case clearly, that can be reproducible in the future. If other people can access your data source, then you can start a conversation with others about what the findings might be. If you're the only one that owns the data that's for your project, you might not be able to engage with others because others can't work on the same project that you can unless you find a way to make it available. And even then you may run into licensing issues. In addition to that, when it comes to data, one thing that you could think about is problems that you have accessing your data could become part of your final project. So for example, if you do use an open data source, but there's gaps or there's problems, there's still some ambiguities within the data set, that can be part of your analysis and you can make reference to that in the accompanying white paper or in the writing that you do for your thesis. So if you do have problems with your data set, don't be afraid that it's the end of the world. Just make mention of that in the work that you do to show how the problems of assembling this data analysis project include ambiguities or gaps in the data that you've gotten. My final and third piece of advice is think about the afterlife of your project. It's very easy to think about your master's capstone or thesis as being a project that you just compile, give to the library and never see again. But these projects can have an afterlife. Could your project be a presentation at a local conference? Could it be a proof of concept for something you do in your professional life? Could it become an article, maybe a blog post or something like that? These are considerations that will allow your project to have an afterlife where you can be motivated to deliver this project in a way that doesn't feel as though it's going to simply gather dust in a library and never be seen again, because a highly technological project like one that involves data analysis is likely to end up being superseded in the years to come. So you should make full use of the fact that the project is very relevant and very timely right now. If you can get some interest in it, it might evolve into something later on. It might not be a project that lives forever, but it could at least be a project that makes its way into the public world after you graduate. And finally, this would help to make the project more motivational for you, because it could be a project that you know can live on after you're finished, and you might be more motivated to develop something more sophisticated, something more interesting for the general public, if it was to be something that would actually reach the light of day rather than be stuck in the library. Of course, one consideration also is you may want to use this material as well to submit for applications for further study. Say, for example, if you want to do a professional degree or in even applying to a PhD program. The materials that you work on right now could become application materials for further work you do in academia, and it could also be part of materials that you use to do funding applications. So think of your project as a professional pre-flight application for something in your post-graduation life, and that way your project will feel real to you as you go through it all the way through. So those are my 3 pieces of advice. Plan ahead, be careful about the data that you're wanting to use, and think about the afterlife. If you bear these 3 things in mind, your project will feel more relevant to you, it'll feel more interesting for you as you go through it, and it may end up having a much bigger impact than if it was just a paper that you wrote for the satisfaction of your advisor. So, I hope this was useful, and I'll see you again soon.